This was quite the blast of a hoopla last week. This account posted this gameplay video of the first Descendant, a South Korean free-to-play third-person shooter. The video features a character just shaking her booty, and this prompted a couple of anti-porn conservatives to share their take on this, mainly how sexually arousing and graphic this game is, and how it's basically porn. While TFD is a mostly serious game, the promos did exaggerate quite a lot of the female features to sell the game. It's definitely provocative and sexual, but it's definitely not porn. It's not even softcore porn. This is something that a lot of traditional conservatives and Christian anti-porn Puritans miss. This is called fan service. Fan service can be put anywhere. It can be in a series that's not really focused on fan service, or it can be a whole material full of nothing but fan service. It's one of those things that are not entirely necessary, but they are nice to have in a series. It's like renting a hotel room and then finding a gravure magazine in one of the drawers. You're there for the hotel room, but the magazine is a nice bonus. The post did ask the question if women shaking their booty in front of the camera is what gamers really want. I don't think so, realistically. Not a lot of gamers want that, but they do want good video games that are fun. And so far, TFD is mostly positive as of late, but for the most part, it's a mixed bag. To me personally, having a female character looking sexy and appealing is a nice bonus in my video games, but it's not so necessary that I'm gonna ask every video game to have that. Balatro doesn't need to have every single deck to be plastered with pixelated anime girls. I can play the game fine without them. The same goes to Solitaire. I can modify the deck to feature lewd arts of my waifu, but I'm perfectly fine with normal cards. Fanservice happens in a lot of media. Some media are just pure fanservice from start to finish. I see nothing wrong with fanservice in the form of characters looking sexy or being sexual, but what do you guys think? Are you fine with some games having sexy female characters but not all of them? Or do you want most, if not all, video games to have sexy booties? That's the general information. Now I want to tackle specific takes from the conservatives. This is the tweet that started the whole thing. The question was, is having a female character shaking their booty what gamers wanted? Anyone with a modicum of decency would say no. There's quite a lot of condescension in that sentence. Anyone with a modicum of decency? You're setting up your take so that anyone who disagrees will be automatically judged as a person who doesn't have any decency. Funnily enough, I also would say no, but not because I'm a person with a modicum of decency, or that I think anyone who disagrees with me is a degenerate pervert. I say no because I and most other gamers want more in their games than female characters shaking their booty in the camera. That's not enough to sell your game. Right to Hell Retribution has female characters with sensual outfits and even sex scenes, but it's one of the worst games of all time, and I'd rather be buried alive with a decomposing corpse than playing that filth. So many claim to care about morals and the future generation. I don't care about what morals you have. All I care about is having good video games. I see nothing wrong with a little fan service or even a lot of fan service. I don't find anything immoral with them, but I hate how media criticism is about how moral or immoral it is, rather than how good or bad it is. I don't criticize fan service because they exist. I criticize fan service because some of them can be really bad. Again, Right to Hell, a great example of god-awful fan service. This is why I say that we need real adults. That implies that you are one. People who have their priorities straight and their arousal in check. Oh no! How dare people find sexy characters arousing? How dare people make characters that are intended to be arousing? This desperate need to be more mature and adult is, ironically, really childish. I'd rather be with someone that embraces what they like, no matter how dumb or immature it is, rather than someone who's judging other people for what they like, calling them out for being immature, while being insecure with their own maturity. Do you think it's childish to like fictional girls with sexy booties? Or do you think it's even more childish to judge what people like based on how mature they are? And that's just the appetizer for the barrage of dumb takes from these traditional conservatives. Loads of people dunking on this, and I can see why. Curvy characters almost completely naked doing stripper dances? No thanks. She's referring to this clip from the first Descendant where the character is shaking her booty. I see nothing wrong with this clip whatsoever. You can literally not wear this outfit and continue the game normally. She's not even almost naked, and the stripper dance is something that the players trigger themselves. You literally don't have to do it. These mods with Leon Kennedy in a jockstrap? Degenerate. No thanks. Wow, how dare you diss the sexy Leon Kennedy mods? You're saying that it's degenerate as if it's a bad thing. That's your opinion. Let people mod Leon to be whatever they like. We can want characters to look good without advocating for porn. I agree. Good thing that TFD is not porn, right? It's not. Wanting characters and art to look good doesn't mean we are allied with the addicts and perverts. I literally do not care about those people. All I care about is good quality video games. Fan service, I can take it or leave it, but I'm not gonna say that you're an addict or a pervert for liking them. You can have attractive characters without being pornographic. Yes, but that doesn't mean that having a sexy character that is meant to be titillating is wrong. I am 100% anti-porn. That explains everything. Good thing that TFD is in porn, right? Look, we can argue and debate on whether porn is good or bad, but before we even come to that argument, we still have a huge hurdle to overcome, which is that TFD is not porn. If you cannot agree to that, then we're not going to be able to progress. Personally, I'm rather mixed on 18+ media. My issue is less on the 18+ media itself and more on the industry side, like the abuse and mistreatment of their workers, the toxic and unwelcoming work environment, the potentially criminal activities that producers did to produce that media, all sorts of shady stuff happening within the 18+ production industry, or at least the ones that involve real people. This is why we have so many independent 18+ content creators. And I'm not just talking about OnlyFans, I'm also talking about 18+ artists that make content featuring fictional characters, whether it be 2D or 3D. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to produce and distribute 18+ content, but what do you guys think? Are you for it or against it? Now let's move on from the anti-porn traditional conservatives to another type of boomers. People that don't even recognize video games existed, including the really popular ones. Before I get to the next supla, if you enjoyed this content, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, or give some tips below if you really like it. I didn't really pay attention to the current events involving the murder of that healthcare CEO, but there were a couple of articles that caught my interest because it's just another installment of video game violence panic, but it's done in a subtle way, and it just exposed how out of touch and idiotic mainstream journalists are. Extremely ironic that the suspect of the CEO murderer is playing a video game where you are a killer. That's like most video games, but they're specifically referring to one video game where you play as an assassin. Assassin's Creed? Hitman? Nope, the game that they're talking about is Among Us. It's ironic that the guy who killed the CEO in real life is playing a video game where you kill people and pretend that you're not the one doing it. No, it's not ironic, because in case you missed it, boomers, Among Us was one of the most popular video games during the COVID era. Millions of people played that game. It's available on mobile, and it's totally playable on anyone's phone. It's a really simple game. The game is so popular that anyone in the world could have played it, including real-life criminals. There's no irony in a murderer playing a really popular game that just so happens to be about deception and murder. Car thieves can be fans of GTA too, but there's no irony in that. It's a really popular game, and a lot of people play it. What does that have to do with the crimes they committed in real life? It's like you are suggesting that people that consume those are going to commit crimes in real life too. Boomers just straight up cannot realize that video games are fiction and fiction is not real. That's just how it is. What do you guys think of this stupidity? The thing is, being an outsider for hobbies like video games will guarantee bad takes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that being a gamer exempts you from having bad takes. This account asked an important question: red or blue? Red being Nintendo properties and blue being Sony properties. That's an undisputable red to me. And this comes from someone who grew up with PlayStation and has never played a Nintendo game in their childhood, except Mario in that bootleg NES console. Sorry PlayStation, but your intellectual properties right now are not as good as Nintendo's. Only child predators choose red. I'm sorry, what? You do realize that just because Nintendo games are mostly family-friendly doesn't mean that those games are meant only for kids. I'm gonna stick with blue. You're sticking with blue because you don't want to be marked as a child predator. But the problem is, you're the one that put the mark yourself. So this problem is entirely on you. I might as well call you a child predator.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
This next hoopla is about someone who really can't do math for their own good. I played the new Indiana Jones game for a bit. Thank you for not having any DRMs for it, because I can safely grab it from the 7 Seas. I thought the game would be just a regular action-adventure affair, but it's a lot more than that, and I find it ingenious. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is actually an immersive sim, like Dishonored or Deus Ex, my favorite game of all time. It focuses more on the adventure than action, so you'll see a lot of puzzles, exploration, non-linearity, secrets, and multiple ways to complete an objective. I love the adventure part, but the action part, like the combat, which is a lot more melee focused, are rather clunky and awkward in my opinion. I say it's a perfectly adequate game. It's on the 7 Seas, so it's definitely worth trying if you have a good PC, but I don't recommend buying it for $70 unless you love to explore around, completing objectives, and hunting secrets. The game is more Indiana Jones treasure hunting exploration and adventure rather than the Nazi punching and shooting action. If you're into that, this game is perfect. Play it on Game Pass so Microsoft gets no money! Microsoft owns Game Pass, so if you pay for Game Pass, Microsoft gets the money. You want Microsoft to not get money? Sell the freaking C's like me. Check out the RPRC Megathread and its other treasures to start. $5 to Microsoft is better than $60. Okay, smartass, here's some quick math for you. $0 to Microsoft is better than $5. I never gave Microsoft a single dollar for a copy of this game, or even Windows and Microsoft Office. Look up Microsoft Activation Script on GitHub and activate your Office and Windows. It's ridiculously easy that even a baby can do it. And finally, here's a mildly infuriating hoopla that takes me back to the good old college days. Remember back in school where you have to submit your assignments at the very last minute? That happened to me many times, but this guy got into the bad end of the stick when he submitted the assignment 13 minutes before the deadline, which decked him 10 points as a late penalty. That's right, he's 13 minutes before the deadline, and yet he's being decked for being late. The professor gave this excuse: I would advise you to submit your work no less than an hour before the due date moving forward. Then make the freaking deadline an hour before that. It's basically that scene from Office Space where Jennifer Aniston's character was bashed for not wearing enough flair. 15 is the bare minimum, but you get bashed for wearing the bare minimum. I mean, how dare they, right? I'm a college teacher too, but when I give the bare minimum requirements, having more is optional and not required. Even my deadline requirement is more lax. But hey, we call these people in Indonesia killer lecturers, so thanks for killing this kid's score for a technicality, you prick. And that's all for the video today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, here's a cat. And also, huge thanks to all these wonderful sponsors. You are all fantastic. If you want to see your name among these legends, then check out the links below, just $1. And you have supported this channel a lot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my ABB Show stream channel. Link below, go subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.